I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, November the 23rd, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Their feedlot starter tub offers a 20% all-natural, high-quality protein, giving those new arrivals more energy. Get the blue tub, go to Vitalix.com. COVID fears trump all fundamentals. This market should be driving right now. All of our fundamentals, for the most part, have been pretty bullish, but we're starting to see deja vu now from early in the spring when we saw these COVID fears come out and talking about closing the plants down and all these things, and there's been no confirmation that anything like that's going to happen. All of your major packing plants have been taking all the safeguards that they could. All the workers are completely covered with PPE. They social distance where they can. They have dividers where they can't. And we haven't heard anything. A high percentage of them already had the COVID. So the likelihood of having a huge outbreak again is not all that high. But we've got all these rumors circulating because everybody has all of a sudden gotten just as scared of the COVID as they were back in the spring. I think a lot of it has to do with the new administration that's supposedly coming in. But where were all these rumors coming from? Well, I've talked to several guys, and mostly your smaller farmer feeders and smaller cattle feeders around that are saying that their packer buyers are saying, you know, we need to get these cattle tied up, you know, let me buy them with some time on there because we're going to be probably shutting down. Or guys are saying, do you think there's a chance you're going to be shutting down? They say, well, probably are, but we haven't seen any of that come to fruit yet. And I'll guarantee you these plants have got to stay open. They're going to do everything they can to stay open because they have made some massive contracts from now to the end of the year to fulfill a bunch of orders that they have for the holiday season and the like. They're going to do everything they can to stay open. But, you know, are they going to back off or close down? You know, that remains to be seen. But none of these rumors have been, you know, founded yet, but I guarantee you the feedlots aren't going to shut down, and we've seen your feeder cattle market fall out of bed too, likely because you know, they think things are going to get backed up. But you know, the feedlots, I guarantee you, will not shut down. Those people are working outside. They're full right now. They're going to stay full, and you know, it makes you very frustrated being in the cattle business and rooting for the cattle market. Talking about you know, all classes of cattle having to go down on unfounded rumors. But we did have a cattle on feed report come out on Friday. It was very bullish as far as the numbers that come out. Of course, the average of the analysts guesses they've been cranking those towards the friendly side very hard the last several months, and it's hard to even you know, hit the marks. But we hit the marks that were pretty out there, and should be bullish. It's bullish according to what the average of the analyst guesses are, and it's very bullish as far as just the core data that come out. But November 1st on feed inventories come out at 101.3. Of course, that's another record since the series began. I've told you guys, every time they have one of those come out, something is the biggest or the lightest or the boldest or whatever since the series began. Don't let those things scare you off. We know we have big numbers of cattle on feed. We've known this for quite some time. I'll say it one more time in this report, maybe not again. We need more fall calvers. We can't choke 75% of our calves being born the first half of the year. Our infrastructure won't handle it, and then we get you know, on the backside on those fall calves, and we don't have enough numbers to fill. But that's just the way it goes. You guys can do something about it. You know, you can start fall calving more. But that 101.3% was compared to the average of the analyst guess, which was 101.8. So that's very friendly. Your October placements come in at 89%, 89.0% of a year ago. That's very bullish. And your average analyst guess was pretty hard to reach at 90.8, but beat that. That's very bullish. And that 89%, it's not due to any big deal up there other than our numbers are just tight. We've likely slaughtered a lot more cows through the pandemic and before than we really were paying attention to. Our receipts, our auction receipts all over the country have been extremely light this fall, especially in the southeast. It's starting to show up. We're going to get this supply back in our favor as far as being lighter and hopefully getting a little bit more leverage in our trade. Your marketings come in very close, which they always do, 99.9% compared to the average of the analyst guess, which was 100.2. But you know, the only numbers of placements that were heavier were those weighing under 600 pounds. Well, that goes to figure. It's so dry everywhere. We didn't have any early wheat pasture. We don't have much stockpile grass out west in California. You know, they didn't get any rain, so they haven't been putting the calves on the grass, turning those out like they normally would. But you know, that was a very bullish cattle on feed report. And it's going to be a shame this week if those continued unfounded COVID fears of plants shutting down continue to kill the market. But we got Thanksgiving coming up this week. We got a short week. That's going to affect our fat cattle trade. We'll likely see trade take place earlier in the week, even though we did have some cleanup trade late in the week that likely took some of this week's show list cattle off of it. But we should be in the best time of the year as far as our fat cattle market, and for the time of year it's the lowest we've seen in 10 years. And meanwhile your packers are enjoying higher wholesale beef prices. They jumped up a bunch this week, which they normally do. It's seasonal, but they're getting a bigger piece of the pie like always. And hopefully if we do get into a situation where these plants aren't able to keep up, that these cattle sellers will try a little harder and be a little bit bolder and try to take a piece of that pie, because we're already seeing some panic buying as they're shutting down a lot of these more liberal states and big cities all over the country, and people are going in there and stocking up. But we've got to go in here with our eyes wide open, remembering what happened just 6 or 8 months ago. But let's look at the board. For last week, December live cattle futures, Monday was up 50 cents, Tuesday was up 90, then we started seeing those rumors float around. Wednesday down 67, Thursday down 240, Friday down another 15 cents, with your December live cattle contracts ending the week at 108.10. That was down $1.82 for the week. February ended the week at 110.65, down $1.57 for the week. January feeder cattle, Monday started out up a nickel. Tuesday was up $1.80. Things were going really good, and then Wednesday we saw those things float around. Wednesday down 242. Thursday was down $1.75. Friday down another 95 cents. Those computerized algorithms on your CME cattle futures, they really went into play this week, and once things started going lower, they just cranked them up, and they just dropped so fast you couldn't believe it. But your January feeder cattle contracts ended the week at 134.60, down $3.27 for the week. Ouch. March ended the week at 134.37. Our fat cattle trade through Thursday, 86,500 head. Not a ton of cleanup trade on Friday, but we did see some. But we also sold some more fat cattle than that in the auctions. And we knew some of our smaller cattle feeders were hearing these rumors about plants being shut down, because our fat cattle auctions in the northern plains and in the Midwest swelled. Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota had 5,000 head of slaughter cattle this week, and sold them as high as $1.15 on some drug-free fats, and that's pretty darn good. We also saw Sioux Falls Regional Livestock have a big run of fat cattle this week. And so we know that they were getting the word out, and they were afraid they weren't going to be able to get their cattle sold, so they started sending them to the auction, which it's great that they have an outlet to do that. Your feeders in the southern plains, which there's not that many of them, but they don't really have that option unless they want to put some serious wheels under them. And we did see that happen back in March and April, but unless they get really, really, in a bad way, they're probably not going to do that. But your fat cattle trade through Thursday, live sales of steers and heifers 106 to 110. We saw your live steer weighted average through Thursday at 109.59. Basically your market was $1.10, and that was steady. Now we did see your spread was $1 lower on that 106 to 110, and we were under some pressure late in the week, although the bulk of your market was still steady at $1.10. Dress sales 166 to 172. That range was lower, but bulk of your sales still at 172, and that's largely steady also. Your weighted average on dress steers 170, 173, and that was awful close to steady also. I said we had a little bit of cleanup trade on Friday. There'll probably be a little more of this by the time they get it all rounded up. But on Friday we saw a few sales. Iowa about 600 head. They had a few live deals from 105 to 108, which would sure be lower. Just kind of taking advantage of some of those farmer feeders. But your dress market was still 170 to largely 172. Nebraska about 800 head on Friday. Few live sales at 107 and dress sales all at 172. Kansas had a few sales at 109, which is sure under pressure there, would be $1 lower, but not enough to establish a market by any means. Didn't have any dress sales. Texas didn't trade a hoof on Friday, and you can imagine why they didn't. They didn't want to take lower market there at the end of the week when they could have had as much of that 110 as they wanted there earlier in the week. But box beef cutout values were higher. The rib posted all-time high for this time of year. As these wholesale beef prices are getting higher. Now, they didn't move a lot of product, and I'm not sure that your packers really cared that they moved a lot of product, because as they're struggling to speed up the chain speeds and get enough product in there to fulfill those obligations that they have for the rest of the year, it was just nice for them to get their values up higher, and that's not a negotiated market, guys. They set those prices, and then you evaluate that market as to how much of it was actually moved, and it was light movement. 669 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings for the week last week, but your weighted average on last week's choice cuts 234.51. That was up 11.52 compared to the weighted average on choice the end of the previous week. Selects had a weighted average last week of 213.76, up 6.35. So big gains in your wholesale beef market. You got choice select spread there on the weighted average of 20.75, and indeed your cutout values were a lot higher than those weighted average I gave you at the end of the week, so they're still on the upswing. Let's talk about what else is going on here today. Joplin Regional Stockyards got their big yearling special, guys. Get on to dvauction.com and watch that sale. They're going to have 10 to 12,000 head of cattle for their regular Monday sale, and in conjunction they've got this big bunch of yearlings. They're going to have over 100 pot loads of yearlings. And I heard from Joplin that they're going to start early. They're going to sell the commingled calves that they help the producers with, the small producers, and they put them with light cattle, and then they sell them at a certain time every week, and it's a real advantage for your small producers. They're going to sell the commingled calves at 8:30, and then they're not going to sell any more calves after 9 o'clock until they get done with all those yearlings. So you guys that are interested in those or want to watch those, get on dvauction.com. They're about 9 o'clock, and you're going to see load after load after load after string of true yearling cattle come right through the ring, and they're going to sell all those yearlings till they get done, and then they'll pick up and clean the rest of the calves up. But look at your cash feeder market and your brick and mortar sales through the week last week. Kind of unevenly steady through the week. Now there were some higher quotes and lower quotes, but for the most part it kind of just depended on what the what the comparison was, but your market was pretty much unevenly steady going through the week until late in the week when on Thursday, you know, we saw the board dump big time, and you saw those rumors going around and everything, and we did see some sharply lower feeder cattle and calf sales late in the week, and it wasn't enough to ruin the week's sales, but still it's frustrating to see that happen. Talk about some sales late in the week. How about Fort Scott, Kansas there, your best Saturday sale around, especially in the southern plains there. Look at these loads and bigger of feeder steers that they sold in Fort Scott on Saturday. Still selling them awful well, and of course they were armed with the news of the bullish cattle on feed report, but most of those yearlings selling from the mid 130s there on your mid and upper 8-weight cattle and light 9-weight cattle there, but a pretty good representation of what the market is on a Saturday. How about some of your late week sales on Friday? The stick out deals that I saw. Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska, up there on the Yellow Brick Road. 88 head, 466 pound steer calves bring 185.50. That's a pretty smoky quote there. Quote on Friday over there in the Midwest on some big yearling feeder steers. Bloomington Livestock Exchange, Bloomington, Wisconsin, 52 head, 904 pound steers bring 142.50. How about the Zach Tran top quote for late last week was St. Onge Livestock, St. Onge, South Dakota, 110 head, 514 pound steer calves bring 173.50. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.